Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we blend casual conversations with insightful discussions on the latest in technology and gadgets. Today we're diving into three pretty huge topics that are shaping the tech world. A computing revolution that can make our devices way faster, the reality check happening in the AI landscape, and the big question of how we're going to power our increasingly electric world.
It's going to be a packed show.
Yeah, so let's kick things off with something I think we can all relate to. Have you ever felt like your computer is just dragging, especially when you're trying to do something demanding like editing a video or maybe trying to play the latest games?
Oh, yeah.
It's like trying to run through mud.
It's a common frustration, for sure. But what's interesting is that this lag you're feeling isn't just an annoyance. It actually points to a fundamental limitation in how our computers work, especially as we're demanding more and more processing power from them with things like, artificial intelligence.
Right, so AI is basically putting a ton of strain on our current tech.
Absolutely. Traditional electronics are hitting a wall, even in those massive data centers you hear about.
And the server farms.
Exactly. Imagine trying to connect tens of thousands of GPUs with current technology. It just wouldn't be efficient. But there's a potential solution brewing that has a lot of people excited, using light instead of electricity to transmit data.
Hold on, using light. You mean like turning on a lamp is going to make my computer run faster?
Not quite, although that would be pretty convenient. We're talking about something called photonics. It's a technology that uses photons, which are particles of light, to transmit data instead of electrons.
Okay, so light particles.
Yes, photons. Think of it like fiber optic internet, but on an even smaller scale within the chips themselves.
So instead of electrons zipping around in our devices, it's going to be photons racing at the speed of light.
Exactly. And that speed translates into some incredible advantages. Not only can photonics increase data transfer speeds by as much as 10 times,
Right.
but it's also significantly more energy efficient, using up to 50% less power. That's a game changer for those power-hungry data centers.
Yeah, for sure. So is this just like some sci-fi concept, or is this something we might actually see, soon?
It's closer than you might think. Major players like NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel are already heavily invested in developing photonic chips, and thousands are being produced as we speak. Within the next few years, we could very well see mass production and integration into existing systems. Imagine your computer, your phone, even your smart appliances, all powered by light.
That'd be pretty wild.
Downloads in seconds, no more lag, and everything running smoothly and efficiently.
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So if this tech takes off, it could change how we interact with technology on a daily basis. It'll be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Speaking of changing the tech landscape, there's another big area making headlines: artificial intelligence. It seems like every day there's a new AI startup popping up with, crazy valuations.
Yeah. It's definitely a hot market right now.
It feels a bit like the dot-com bubble all over again.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? Are we in for another tech bust?
Well, it's definitely a dynamic time in the AI world. And yes, there's a lot of hype and speculation driving those valuations. But here's the thing. While the IPO market is recovering, investors are approaching it with a lot more caution this time around.
So they're not just throwing money at anything with AI in the name anymore.
Exactly. They've learned some hard lessons from the past. Instead of getting caught up in the hype, they're digging deeper, looking for companies with solid business models, real revenue growth, a clear path to profitability. Companies like ServiceTitan and Canva, for example, are generating a lot of interest because they're demonstrating that AI can solve real-world problems and generate value.
Makes sense. But what about all the mergers and acquisitions we've been seeing? Seems like everyone is trying to get a piece of the AI pie.
Well, the merger landscape is a bit more complicated right now. A lot of regulatory hurdles, especially in the tech sector. The proposed Kroger-Albertsons merger is a good example. Even for those massive companies, getting a deal approved can be incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
And the same goes for tech giants trying to snap up, smaller AI companies.
So it's not just a matter of having enough money to buy your way into the AI game. There are other forces at play.
Absolutely. And speaking of money, there's a reality check happening for a lot of those AI startups that were riding the wave of hype. The initial excitement around general AI, the idea of creating machines with human-like intelligence, is starting to fade.
Right.
Many of those companies are struggling to secure additional funding, and some are even running out of cash.
Oh, wow.
So
are we seeing a kind of AI shakeout where only the strongest survive?
In a way, yes. And this shift is actually a good thing.
Okay.
The focus is moving away from the pie-in-the-sky promises of general AI toward companies that are tackling real, practical problems in specific industries.
Yeah, I could see that.
We're seeing this in areas like legal tech, insurance tech, logistics, places where AI can automate tasks, analyze data, and make things more efficient.
So it's not all doom and gloom for AI. There's still a lot of potential, but it's becoming more grounded in reality.
Exactly. And let's not forget that the big players, companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, they're still going strong because they have the resources and the expertise to navigate these changes. They're the ones pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI, while also exploring, responsible development and ethical considerations.
Right, that makes sense. But I'm curious about something you mentioned earlier, zombie unicorns.
Yeah.
What exactly are those?
Oh, yeah. Good question. It's a term that's starting to pop up more and more. Zombie unicorns are startups that have achieved those billion-dollar valuations,
Okay.
but they're struggling to find a path to profitability. They might have a cool product or technology, but they haven't figured out how to turn it into a sustainable business.
Right.
And eventually, that catches up with them.
Yeah. So it sounds like the AI landscape is still pretty volatile. What do you think will determine which companies ultimately succeed in this space?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I think it boils down to a few key things. First, they need to be solving real problems that people or businesses are willing to pay for. Second, they need to be adaptable, responsive to changes in the market and technology. And perhaps, most importantly, they need to demonstrate that they can actually make money,
Right, yeah.
not just burn through investor cash, but generate real sustainable revenue.
Okay, so keep an eye out for those zombie unicorns, everyone. They might look impressive, but they could be hiding some serious vulnerabilities. And for those of you who are interested in, following the evolution of AI, this is definitely a space to watch closely. The next few years are going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. Okay, so we've talked about the future of computing and the evolving landscape of AI. But there's another huge piece of the puzzle that we need to talk about, something that affects us all. Energy. Our world is becoming increasingly electric, and that's putting a lot of pressure on our current energy infrastructure.
Yeah, it's true. The demand for energy is skyrocketing globally, and it's not just about keeping the lights on anymore. We're
Right.
talking about electric cars, massive data centers, entire industries transitioning to electricity. This electrification of everything is putting a huge strain on our energy grid
Yeah.
and raising some big questions about how we're going to meet these growing demands.
And it's not just about producing more energy, right? We need to make sure it's clean and sustainable. Otherwise, we're just making the climate crisis worse.
Absolutely. The focus has to be on electrifying the world in a way that's both sustainable and reliable.
Right.
We need energy sources that can, provide consistent power without harming the planet. And that's leading to some really interesting developments across the energy spectrum. We're seeing continued investment in renewables like solar and wind power, but also renewed interest in some perhaps unexpected sources.
Like what? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, hydrogen is getting a lot of attention as a potential clean fuel source.
Okay.
It can be produced from renewable energy sources, and when burned, it only emits water vapor.
Wow.
And then there's carbon capture, which is basically the idea of capturing carbon dioxide from power plants or even directly from the air and
It's
storing it underground or using it for other purposes.
carbon capture. I've heard about that,
Yeah.
but it always sounded kind of futuristic to me. Is it actually a viable solution?
It's becoming increasingly viable. There are already direct air capture plants in operation around the world, and technology is advancing rapidly. Companies are even developing ways to integrate carbon capture with traditional gas-fired power plants,
Sure.
making them significantly cleaner. So even existing energy sources can be adapted to reduce their environmental impact.
That's pretty amazing. So we've got renewables, hydrogen, and carbon capture all on the table. What else are we seeing?
Here's something you might not expect. Nuclear power is making a comeback.
Nuclear.
Yeah.
Really? I thought that was kind of the thing of the past, especially with concerns about, safety and waste disposal.
Those concerns are still valid and safety is paramount. But there's a growing recognition that nuclear power, especially newer, more advanced reactor designs, can play a significant role in a clean energy future. It provides a consistent, reliable source of power without emitting greenhouse gases. And we're not just talking about those, giant centralized nuclear power plants. There's a lot of research and development happening with small modular reactors,
Hmm.
or SMRs,
Okay.
which are more compact, flexible, and potentially safer.
Smaller nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
Where would you even put something like that?
That's the interesting part. Because they're smaller and more modular, they can be deployed in a wider range of locations. We could even see nuclear reactors designed specifically to power massive data centers in the coming years.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. So we've got all these different energy sources emerging, but how do we get that energy where it needs to go? Our current electrical grid is already struggling to keep up with demand.
That's a crucial point. The electrical grid is the backbone of our energy system, and it needs a serious upgrade.
Right, it's aging, for sure.
It has to be modernized to handle the influx of renewable energy sources, the fluctuating demands of a more electric world, and the integration of new technologies like, energy storage and smart grids.
So it's like our energy highway system needs a major overhaul.
Exactly. And the good news is that energy companies around the world are investing heavily in research and development to create smarter, more resilient grids. They're incorporating AI and machine learning to optimize energy distribution, predict demand, and integrate a wide range of energy sources. This is a long-term project, but the payoff will be huge.
So as our world gets more electric, we're going to see some pretty significant changes in how we generate and distribute energy. It's an exciting time to be following the energy sector. And I'm curious to see how these developments will affect our lives in the years to come. What do you think, listener? Are you ready for a future powered by light, AI, and a smarter energy grid? I think that's about all the time we have for today. So much going on in the tech world right now. It's hard to keep up sometimes, but that's why we do this show, to break it all down and make it a little bit easier to understand. So thanks for joining us for another deep dive into the world of tech. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you next time for another bite-sized look at the latest in technology.